Just
Yeah.
want to welcome everyone. Welcome to you, Alan. Introducing Alan November.
Okay.
And he is delighted to share with us about teaching our students how to use the internet for searching and just live in this virtual world better. So,
Oh,
Alan, I turn it over to you.
already. Okay. Hang on. I was just getting off
Oh,
my
take your
seat.
time if you need to share your screen. No
There we
worries.
go. Yeah. So you've told people that they're really talking to you, right, in the chat.
That's right.
That you
I
are
will be moderating the chat and I will answer or ask any questions on their behalf.
great.
If there are natural pauses in time where you ask them to shout out a question, they can use the raise
Yeah.
the hand feature and I will call on you. Since we are a rather big group and we're growing by the minute. So I keep letting new participants in. So I'll continue to monitor the participants and monitor the chat. And if you do have any questions for Alan as he's presenting, please feel free to pop it in there and I will ask it on your behalf at our natural pauses.
Okay, because to just let people know, because I can't see people, I sometimes in one of these online events go faster than I should. So I'll just need some breaks by people asking questions so that I don't outrun your ability to keep up. And it's my fault, not yours. So please stop me if I outrun anyone's ability to keep up. All right. So for some of you, this will be review too. It'll go both ways. You have ideas. I'm always willing to learn. I have to learn new things. So chip in with new ideas. So Jackie, yeah, I'm going to share my screen.
There you
Do
go.
people see the Wayback Machine? Now
You
you
are
see
there.
Google?
I see Google.
You see Google. Okay. So the first warm-up is I'm going to ask everybody to Google. If you all get a Google screen open somewhere, phone, anything you got. And Google, are cats better than dogs? So we're going to start with something very innocent. Are cats better than dogs? And run the search. And if you're like my house, there's no room for dogs being better. Cats are better every time. Scroll down to see your results. Cats are better than dogs. No room for dogs. So the cat lovers are right. Cats are better than dogs. And I think everybody probably knows where this is going. Then you type in, are dogs better than cats? And lo and behold, you get the opposite point of view with all the results. All of them say that dogs are better, cats are not better. So now, the obvious result of this exercise is just to point out that Google does not give you unbiased, balanced information when you do a search. Google's main goal in life is to make money. And to do that, it's better for them to give you what you want. If they can figure that out, what you want to hear, then the ads that go with that make them more money, and you're happy. That makes Google happy. So no educator would have invented this system, right? You don't go in the library and say, give me what I want. Give me what I already believe. Give me. It just doesn't work that way in learning. So what works for buying Birkenstock sandals and other things does not work when you're learning something new for the first time. If you already know the answer, you already know what you want to get, Google's not bad, right? We all use it for that. But for children learning a subject, unless their teachers taught them how to design searches that lead to at least balanced results, I will put forward that most of our children, every day they do homework for teachers, are getting biased results because the default search strategy for children is to type in the name of the assignment. And assignments were not created to be Google searches. In fact, probably most assignments we give kids today were written before the internet was even invented. We really give them old stuff, right? We don't give them new stuff because of standards and testing, and all that froze the curriculum in place about 20 years ago. And so for about 20 years, we've had almost no development in curriculum, and in comes the internet. So we're in a weird problem. We have a problem. And the problem is that a lot of people don't know how to question the results they get. So your first real challenge is to redesign the question, are cats better or dogs better, so that you get balanced results. And I'm going to give you some rules about designing good Google searches. No adverbs, no verbs, no adjectives, no punctuation like a question mark. So you almost have to unlearn grammar as we taught you to write a good sentence or a good question. That's out with an algorithm. Algorithms don't work like human beings. Algorithms behind the search engine are a set of rules. And you almost have to fool the algorithm into not knowing what you really, really want. So I'll give you 15 seconds. Design the search so you get balanced results, where roughly half of it is cats are better and half of it is dogs are better. Okay, so Jackie, I think I'll do it just to show people what I've done, and then people can share out. So, nouns, right? We know about dogs, then we know it's about cats. So dogs, cats, that makes sense. And then maybe one more word, debate. Dogs, cats, debate. If you run that search, you will see a much more balanced result. Cats are better, cats versus dogs, or dogs better. You see it's more balanced. It's not one or the other. But this is not typically how children design searches. Children typically write out whole sentences or their teacher's assignment. And so my sense is whenever we give an assignment, that means all assignments, where you think kids will search the web, it might be a good idea to give them some hints about designing good searches to empower them and to build capacity for critical thinking and to question the results they see. So that only takes about 30 seconds, maybe 10 seconds when you give an assignment. Here, let me, Jackie, let me just check in. Any questions so far on cats and dogs?
Nothing yet in our chat, but
Okay.
I'll check and see if there are any hand raises.
Okay.
Nothing at this time.
Well, let's do a tougher one. Let's say I give an assignment. I give an assignment on the Iranian hostage crisis. You know, the takeover of the American embassy in Iran, we're still dealing with that almost every day. So I'd like people to find the best information they can from Iran. And the name of the assignment is the Iranian hostage crisis. So I'll give people, 10 seconds. Just run a search, whatever your search is that you think will get you a balanced, or at least one side at a time, search result. This is like cats and dogs. I think a lot of assignments are like cats and dogs. You can either love cats or you can love dogs. The question is, do you see both perspectives? So one of the most incredible opportunities we have in teaching is to open worldviews, right? We want kids to think. We want them to see all sides of a problem, because you never know where a breakthrough will come, in a problem. You really need a lot of information sometimes from different sources. In fact, while people are thinking about that, I'm going to type in, give me the closest Starbucks. I have to give you another element of how Google organizes information. Give me the closest Starbucks. Now, most of you are in Westchester County, are you? Are people in Westchester County, Jackie?
Yes, for the most part, although we do have some folks from around either the country or around the region.
Well,
People
here's where I live.
everywhere.
I live in Marblehead, Massachusetts. And I say, give me the closest Starbucks. And it gives me Marblehead. That's about where I live. Starbucks down the street. And it gives me Salem, and it gives me another town nearby. If all of your people did, give me the closest Starbucks, they would see a map of their neighborhood. So it's really important to know that Google knows where you are on the planet, because every IP address connects to a geographic address. So it knows where you are, including cell phones, from power towers pinging. And so it gives you information that's typically closest to you first and then out. So for example, if I said, give me, let's see, I'll say, I only want Iranian sources on the Iranian hostage crisis, right? I only want Iranian sources. I'm telling Google, I only want Iranian sources. And this one is an American university. And this one is another American university. History is a government site in the US, the Brookings, Britannica, the New York Times, nothing from Iran. I tell Google I only want Iran, and I get nada because I'm in the US. Too far away from Iran. Nothing from Iran. You go ahead, you try this wherever you live. And you're not going to get anything from Iran. I only want sources from Iran. So the first thing we have to look at to get balance is a little different than cats and dogs. Because of the geography of this one, we have to teach children that there are references on the internet that they're going to learn use all the time. One of the most important references we should be teaching children wherever we introduce the dictionary is the Internet Country Code Domain List. Everybody needs this list bookmarked, right? This bookmark, rather this website, should be bookmarked, gives you all the 2 letters of every country in the world. It's a very important reference to have. It's essential to have. So if we go look up Iran, we're going to see that Iran is IR. IR. Okay, all good. Now we go back to Google and we type in what's called an operator, site. Google has a bunch of operators. And site's an operator, and if I type in site:IR, that tells Google, I don't want to be in Massachusetts anymore. I want to be in Iran. So I just run that search, site:IR, no space. And what you get is you're in Iran. You can see that. That's how you tell Google, I'm in Iran.
Alan, so we have our first question from Kathy.
Yeah.
Her question would be, for her students to be able to participate on doing this, would they have to go into Google and then go into the different sites that they would like? So what you're saying right now is in order to go to sites from Iran, they'd have to do IR : or site:IR in order to go to Iranian sites?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
You don't type Google, so Google's not a human being, right? If it's a human being, you say, I just want sites from Iran. Google doesn't understand that. Google doesn't read English. Google doesn't read any language. Google works on logic commands. And they call those logic commands operators. So cite is one of 40 odd operators. This is like knowing the Dewey Decimal System if you walk into a library. We need some way to organize a lot of information, some system. And unfortunately, a lot of children are never taught the system. And they talk to Google like it's a person, not a person. Nobody's home at Google. Just a big warehouse filled with computers and these rules, right? Okay, so cite colon IR. Then the question is, what did the Iranians call this? Because they didn't call it the Iranian hostage crisis. In fact, the Iranians called it conquest of the American spy den. So I'm going to run this search. So we have really two parts to a search. The way I see it is there's two parts. There's mechanical stuff that isn't creative. It's just knowing what the rules are. So the rule or the mechanical part is cite colon IR. That's, Jackie, as you said, that gets me into Iran and only Iran. The rest of the search, conquest the American spy den, that requires some thinking. Did the Iranians call it the Iranian hostage crisis? If they didn't call it that, what did they call it? How do I find it? This is what I found, conquest American spy den. So you'll see that all these websites have a .ir. They're all from Iran, all 794. But if I only wanted universities, if I only wanted to attempt to get what scholars are saying, then I would type ac.ir. AC is an abbreviation for academic that only works in certain countries, not in the US. We have EDU. But most other countries, especially non-English speaking, use AC as an abbreviation for academic, and the country code is always followed, ac.ir. So this result of this search gives me a very different understanding, different content, different conclusions of what happened than if I type in the assignment, which is Iranian hostage crisis. Then I get only Western points of view. I don't get any Iranian at all. So, depending on how you move through the web, you will get a different story. And my sense is, while it's very exciting and we have opportunity to get information we've never in our lives ever seen before, it's not generally happening because we're not teaching children the finer points of search.
Alan, Nancy in our group also noted that the words and crisis are loaded words. So it's important to teach bias, perspective, and point of view when doing this too.
But I'm sorry, what Nancy said something, if you could start again what Nancy said.
Sure. Nancy added to the chat that conquest and crisis are loaded words. So it's really important to teach bias, perspective, point of view, etc. When doing this as well. So you're teaching about the perspective and the points of perspective when you're teaching about how to search for perspective.
Yes, and that's a really fine point. My sense is, without getting too philosophical, I don't know where the truth lies anymore. I only know there were different versions of the truth. And sometimes you strive to get the truth. Like in COVID-19, I want to know what's the best information I can access that will protect me and my family, right? I have this unbelievably urgent need. Maybe we should do this search. Because here we are getting information, many of us, from places like Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or. Where do we get our information? We could ask that of everybody on. And I think it would scare the bleeping out of me to hear where people are going to get information. So let's take this seriously. What's your best search for what you can do to protect yourself from getting COVID-19? I'll give you a start on that. I haven't done it yet myself, but I will. Because at this point, we may want, we can argue, whether to wear a mask, not wear a mask. But I'm going to try the hardest I can to get the best information without arguing about it. I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the country code for South Korea. Because from all I've heard, I could be wrong, South Korea has killed this thing better than we have. So I want to go to South Korea. I want to think globally. I want to find out what's going on. Maybe it's under Korea. I gotta go. I don't know Korea. Kosovo. No, let's drop down to the S's. Anybody find South Korea? Slovakia, South Africa, South Korea. KR. Okay. So I'm going to go back to Google. Now I'm going to type in site : KR. And then I'm going to type in COVID-19 prevention. And then I'm going to look at these. And I know I don't have time to read right now, but this would be part of my search. In fact, I was on the phone today with some friends of mine after come back from Florida. So maybe they should look at what they're doing at this airport. Just agreed. Yeah. So the other thing I might do is go over to tools up at the top. I hope people can see my screen. You have a tools bar up at the top. That drops down a timeline. I go to any time. I just want things in the past month. So this is how I search for the past month. I go to Google's timeline, and now I can see what happened on March 11th, March 18th, March 20th. And I want to find out what South Korea is doing. If I want a quick view of what South Korea is doing, I might click on images. And images can show me, way in for different. If I'm more scientifically based, I might go, this is economic impact. I can quickly see lots more than I see on a screen. And I'm a visual learner. So this is very helpful to me because I see a lot more than I see in a Google search. And it just helps my style of learning because I'm visual. That I would click on images in the last, if I'm really anxious about time, I might go back to tools and click on any time. And I would say, just give me the past 24 hours. This thing's moving so fast that I want to know what are they doing. This thing here, the cdc.go.kr, that's their version, I'm guessing, of our CDC government agency website, cdc.gov. So I just want that thing, type in cdc.go.kr, and then COVID-19. That only gives me the CVC of South Korea, and only in the last 24 hours. So understanding how to do these things makes a big difference. Now I'm going to go to dinner tonight, and I'm going to argue with people who saw CNN and Fox News. It's going to be a mess. Because no one else, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but I don't know, it's a problem. All right, Jackie, I probably went too fast just then.
I think our group has been keeping up really well. There's even some comments and questions in the chat. John said that in our English 9 and 12 classes at Fox Meadow, we always ask the students to support the information they find and who is writing about the info. Also, a couple of participants earlier were commenting that one man's ceiling is another man's floor. They agree that lateral reading is key. Someone said, I don't think that that information can be gleaned from a single site. It would definitely take some lateral reading. And then someone, Nancy, commented that it's agreed and evaluate both the info and the source. So I think they're following along really well. I guess there are probably some questions too, though, Alan, about, how do you do this in a safe way? I think you were starting to allude to that earlier, where you were filtering by colleges only and those kinds of sites, because I think one concern teachers may have in this global learning idea is sending students to sites from other countries that may say really unsafe or troubling things. So how do they protect them from an image search of another country that may come up with some really dangerous images or whatever? What can they do?
Nothing.
Say more about that.
It's the web. I mean, turn Google off. There's no way you can sit with every child. Don't teach them to read. I mean, we had that argument with reading when printing presses came out. They didn't let women learn to read for a couple hundred years because that might lead to them voting. Oh my God, we can't let them vote. So, because they'll get crazy ideas in their head. So we've had this argument literally for the last 500 years. You go to Pakistan and Afghanistan, you still see they won't let women learn to read. For those reasons, I think we have to do the best we can, like we do with reading. And it's just an extension of reading. It's too late to turn the internet off. What I can do here, I'll give the group a challenge. I'd like them to search for only schools in the United States, all 50 states at once, about COVID-19. You do a search where all you find are school websites in all 50 states on COVID-19. That's one way to respond to your concern about scary images. Schools should not be putting up scary images. So I'll give people 10 seconds to do that. I have to take a sip of Passover wine. Excuse me. It's required by religion. Okay. You got it? This should be a test. I wish I could see everybody's screen right now. Here, I'll do the search. Site colon K12 dot asterisk dot US COVID-19. Technically, COVID-19 should be in quotes because it's a phrase. That search will give you school systems. Oh, wait a minute. That's only in the past 24 hours. So I'm still on 24 hours. So I got to go back up and say anytime. All right. So here's the search, k12.**.us. If I only put in New York, NY, right? Then I'm only going to get New York. If you just want to see what New York is doing. But if I want all 50 states, I have to put in what's called a wildcard character. That is the asterisk. So in the Google logic structure, they use an asterisk to fill in information in between things so that you can do multiple searches at once and get all 50 states instead of having to do 50 searches with each 2-letter state postal code. Anyway, so this is all 50 states, and you can see Brookline, Massachusetts at the top, then South Carolina, another one in Massachusetts, New Jersey, and so forth. What concerns me is a lot of kids or a lot of teachers won't even know how to do this search. So if you're in New York and you're taking a Regents exam and you want to do search on a Regents topic and you only want New York schools to know what's going on with the Regents, you would start your search with k12.ny.us. Then you would type in Regents. Do you still have the Regents exam, Jackie?
Well, actually, we just got news this week that they're being canceled for this year. But yes, we do have the
Okay,
Regents still
no
in
more
it.
Regents. Okay, Regents.
Just for this, just for this, this year.
And then type in your topic. Like, give me a topic, Jackie.
Okay.
What's on the exam?
Closures. How about closures? See
Closures. So now you have information you need. I was thinking, what about curriculum? What's on the test? Let's say you wanted to give your students resources for taking the test. What's one of the standards on the test, Jackie?
That's a great question. I don't teach those.
All right, never. Well,
I can ask Anne Marie Nee, or Nancy gave us ancient Rome. Let's do ancient.
Okay, ancient Rome. Fantastic. Ancient Rome.
Also, Alan, can you remind us again what they enter to find the list of all the country codes?
Yeah.
It's like colon.
I will.
Okay.
You just write country code and quote internet.
Got it.
Just country code. And then the word internet.
In quotes, though, correct? That's the logic piece.
Yeah. Country code should be in quotes. Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, I should explain. So quotes holds words together. So they have to be found together in the content. Otherwise, you get every ancient and every Rome. I just want ancient Rome. That has to have quotes.
Great.
And then I got practice questions for ancient Greece. I don't know why ancient Greece came up, but if I go in, this should have been Rome. I don't know. Rome must be in there also. You're just seeing a lot of content that global history honors. So this is a way, especially if you're a new teacher, you want to learn how to rip off other teachers. Always send a thank you note if you find their email address. All right, Jackie, I'm gonna let's see. If somebody wants to give me a search challenge, I'll do it. But otherwise, I was gonna go on to some other tools. We could do Google all day long, so I feel a little bad about leaving, but there are some other things I think will add some value. But I just want to make sure if somebody wants me to do a search, I'll do it.
It doesn't look like there's anything pressing, just some ideas for you for the Regents before. But, Alan, before you leave the search, talk a little bit just about who owns the learning. In your book, Who Owns the Learning, you talked about how students, need to own the learning in the classroom. How does this put the learning ownership in their hands?
Well, that's really interesting question because the phone call, I was on a call when you called me back. And I was on a call with a mother uh, who lives in my neighborhood, and she's got two kids, 6 and 10. And she read an article, she claims, that actual learning time in school is around 2 hours. When you take away interruptions, moving, lunch, all the other things, teacher calling on somebody else while you're sitting there, it's I thought that was high, actually. I thought 2 hours a day, I don't know. That sounds pretty good. If the kids focus for 2 hours, that's a lot to me. We can debate that. So she's watching her kids learn at home. I'm helping her, right? And her kids are into it. They're just going, they can keep going. Once you teach them how to find good information in the world, they kind of like that. And now they need her help. They need the mother's help. But I think a lot of parents are going to figure out that kids can own their learning. Very young, this 10-year-old is nonstop focused. So I think we've underestimated a lot of kids. I think whoever owns the learning is motivated to get it done. So if the teacher gives an assignment, it's the teacher's assignment. If the kids come up with their own assignments, I think they're more inclined to do them. And teachers are more inclined to learn what kids are thinking. There's a whole nother discussion, Jackie. We'll have to have another forum on who owns the learning. It certainly fits into search because once you teach kids good search, here, I'll show you what I mean. Who owns the learning? So my next search engine is one way to answer your question. Wolfram Alpha. I love this, Wolfram Alpha. So let's say you had a workbook, and the workbook was asking you to compare hamburger with hot dogs in a nutrition class. So you type in hamburger, hot dog, and you run the search. And when you run the search, Wolfram Alpha is a knowledge engine. It's very different than Google. It gives you lots of information organized in data. It's a data analytic, or it's called computational thinking, which I'm going to have to define eventually. But roughly, it means that you take a topic, like hot dogs and hamburgers, and you figure out if there's any numbers associated with that. Well, there's a lot of numbers. Calories, carbohydrates, sugar, fat. Excuse me, lots of numbers. Now, what I'm showing you here does not exist. This is not Google where it looks things up that already exist. But Wolfram Alpha does. If everybody can see at the bottom, there's a sources button. The sources button is gives me access to the resources they used. They used food data. And when I click on food data, they use this. They used all these articles. And these are all academic articles. And somewhere in each of these articles, there's presentation of hot dogs and hamburgers. So what you're looking at, the chart above, is the summary of all of these articles remixed, if you will, into a chart where you don't have to read all those articles. All you have to do is push a button and you just saved a couple of weeks of research. And now you can see the actual data you want if you're comparing the nutritional value with hot dogs and hamburgers. So Jackie, now the question is, when do I use Wolfram Alpha? And when do I use Google, right? Because they're very different. Like if I type in Macbeth, Wolfram Alpha, and I scroll down, and I take a look at, it's all data, right? Like I said, it's boring. 17,000 words? Who cares? I don't care that I don't even know what a unique word stem is, but there's 2,800 of them. The biggest word is voluptuousness. I don't care about that either. Let's see. What I might care about is this chart. This chart is computational thinking represented in one screen. The little blue lines represent the character being on stage with a speaking role. So Macbeth does not have the first speaking role. That would be Malcolm. And by the way, Malcolm has the last. Looks like he has the last one too. Lady Macbeth does not show up in Act 4. Malcolm does not show up in Act 3. Banquo just stops in Act 3. He didn't go anywhere. By the way, the acts are delineated by these little vertical lines. So it's 5 acts. Now, you're looking at the entire play in one screenshot. There are any number of teachers who teach Shakespeare who thinks this is gold, that you can now get kids to ask questions. So the pedagogy of good search doesn't stop with teaching good search. I think that's just the beginning. The pedagogy of teaching people to access information is teaching them how to ask interesting questions about the information they accessed. So I think we should change the design of our assignments, that kids should generate questions in front of whatever they're going to be doing. And that we ought to be teaching kids how to ask really interesting questions, which is a whole nother workshop, Jackie. But so to answer the question about who owns the learning or to comment on it, I would rather have kids start Macbeth by going to Wolfram Alpha and looking at that screenshot and asking questions about the play. Like, did Banquo die? Why doesn't Lady Macbeth show up in Act 4? So the kids can generate questions in teams, then they can go read the play. But you need Wolfram Alpha to do the computational thinking to represent the play in one screen. So I love Wolfram Alpha because of its ability to do computational thinking. It would be great if someone tells me a story about Wolfram Alpha. I'll show you. If I type in any math problem, 6x squared plus 2, that's not a 2, 2 equals 8. Type in the word solve. Boom. You get the answer, +1, -1, you get the graph, you get the step-by-step. I love this step-by-step solution over here. You can get kids to play with this thing. You can say, all right, straighten out the graph. Make it go from this negative quadrant to this positive quadrant in a straight line rather than a curve. What do you have to do to the equation? You couldn't really do those things before. So if you understand, you say, well, we take out the exponent, and we run it again. And if we take out the exponent, there can't be 2 answers. Now there's 1 answer, and we have that straight line. Now you know the kid really understands the mathematics. So with good search tools, everything changes, Jackie. It all starts moving toward the learner to experiment and practice and play and come up with conclusions. You don't need a teacher in any math class standing in front of a group of kids at a smartboard, writing down equations and explaining how to solve them. We just don't need that at all anymore. And that's reflected across the curriculum. What teachers have been doing, we needed them to be doing because we didn't have tools like this. But now we need them to do other things, like teach kids how to ask questions. I don't know. We've been talking about this for a couple of years, Jackie. What do you think?
I agree. I agree. It's good for our teachers to learn great ways to probe and ask questions of students and get students to ask those questions. What are some strategies or tips that you have for helping teachers develop questioning skills in their students?
Ah, oh, I'll show you. I have friends who are better than me. Do you know the Right Question Institute, Jackie?
We do. We work with them sometimes over in
Ah,
person.
I love those guys.
Yeah,
So,
they're great.
so Right Question Institute. Then you already knew the answer. I knew you knew the answer.
Well,
So,
that's my role as moderator.
yeah, that's good. It's good. That's why I love working with you. So these guys have taught me a lot of stuff. They come to BLC and do workshops for days. Oh my gosh, and I go and attend them. Um, so they have, as you know, this process where students look at a stimulus, a painting, an equation, computational thinking about Macbeth, and they start asking questions in a group, and then they have to label each question, whether it's open or closed. So a closed question is who wrote the play. An open question is why didn't Lady Macbeth show up in Act 4? And then they have to rewrite the closed questions to be open questions and the open questions to be closed. And that's hard. So now they're struggling because they really have to focus and dive deeper into the structure of their questions. And it's fascinating to watch kids struggle, then they get it. I think struggle is important, in a healthy environment. And very often kids will write much more interesting questions when they rewrite from open to closed and closed to open. You've probably seen that too. Mm-hmm. And it's an amazingly powerful process. I've had kids so turned on by seeing second and third levels of their questions that they wonder why every teacher doesn't do it. They just say out loud, this is one of the best things I've ever done in school. So I'm all into these guys, the Right Question Institute, because they taught me how to do this. Do you have there's Socratic method, there's all the different methods for teaching kids to ask questions, but this one is low-hanging fruit, it's fast, powerful, fun to do.
That's great. We've also used the QFT in professional learning and as part of administrative work.
Wow.
In how we work on our teams and developing each other and attacking problems that we might have or issues we're facing. So the QFT is really a very flexible tool that you can use, a flexible strategy you can use in all environments.
Wow. That's amazing. Here, let me jump to another tool that's a favorite of mine. It's the Wayback Machine search tool. It's at archive.org. And in the Wayback Machine, you type in a web address like CNN or Fox News, CNN.com. And you run it. Any web address, doesn't matter. Service center, school website, doesn't matter. And I'm studying the World Trade Center. So 2001, this is an organization of how it always works, chronologically by year. If there's no black, there's no website. CNN started in 2000 because of the black bars. So I click on 2001. The address becomes 2001. I scroll down to 9/11. Click on a time on that day. And I'm going to be looking at the front page of CNN on that day. And all the links work. So this is a very powerful search tool. Essentially, the people who put this together realized that a lot of stuff was going to be deleted over time, and it might be useful to store the internet every couple of days, every couple of hours, depending on the website. Starting in the 90s, it's unreal to have this website. In fact, this election, if you're going to teach anything about government, you have to teach this. Science, see when things change. I can go to the government agency of Korea, see when they put up stuff on COVID-19. Oh my gosh. What you could do with COVID-19 with the Wayback Machine, instead of listening to any news agency, if you wanted to know who said what on what day, you don't have to rely on anybody else, just the Wayback Machine. So this is a powerful tool. The observation earlier about inappropriate content, I think kids know, if it's somebody who's naked, it's inappropriate, right? What's less obvious about inappropriate content, if it's the government agency that's giving it to you, and and they're giving you inappropriate content. So with the Wayback Machine, I can check across many agencies over time, in this case with different presidents, and see what really happened. So I happen to think it's an important tool. Some people might think that it's too dangerous, that you're able to access information that no longer exists. But there you have it. And there's very little analog for this on the print side. This is beyond libraries. This is really amazing if you know how to use it well. So those are my my top three: is Wolfram Alpha and the Wayback Machine, archive.org, and of course Google. Knowing which to use when and how to use each one well, I think is like knowing there's a dictionary, there's a thesaurus, there's the atlas. We've always taught people how to use reference sources. But I'm worried for some reason that not only are we not teaching children how to use what they use every day, like Google, we're not teaching them to use other reference sources either, at all. And I can't figure this out. I can't figure out how this has been now going on for about 20 years in terms of search tools. And we're not embedding this in the curriculum. I just can't figure this out. Maybe somebody has an answer to this. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everybody knew everything I just shared and I'm wrong. I'd like to hear that.
I think knowing how great our teachers and leaders are in this region, we're probably making really great steps toward it, but we may not know all the tools that are out there for us to use or what the best ones are. And I think it's helpful to hear from folks like you who have been talking about this for many years and pointing out some of these items, some of these different sites. I think it's important to continue to hear your voice and to continue to hear what you share from all of the people that you've interacted with through the BLC, the international conference that you have every year, and all of your partnerships around the globe. You are a global learner. That is your Twitter. So it makes a lot of sense that you are always looking globally for learning. As we're approaching 2:00, I want to honor your time and know that you have to go back to your Seder. There is one last question or one last statement that I think that maybe we could close on with your thoughts, that sometimes teachers are afraid to give control.
Oh my gosh, that's a really long answer for me. I mean,
your most 30 seconds condensed answer.
I think it's actually the single most difficult thing for an adult to do. is to let go of control, whether it's your own kids or your classroom. That's the age-old problem. Yeah, I think we've underestimated kids, all I can say. One of my gurus in all of this is Eric Mazur at Harvard. He has a great YouTube video called AP 50, Advanced Physics, Applied Physics 50, AP 50, where he has completely let go of control. So the classroom looks very different. He shares almost no content in 3 hours. It's all on the web in physics. It was a very difficult transition for him to stop sharing his knowledge. But if you want to read research, it's actually called, here, let me go back to Google. It's called The Curse of Knowledge. So, Curse of Knowledge. Curse of Knowledge. Curse of Knowledge is kind of an ongoing group at Harvard. Let me see. Harvard. What? It's my Boston accent. Harvard.edu. Site colon. Something went very wrong there. I gotta go figure out what I did. But anyway, Curse of Knowledge. And it basically says that teachers are so competent and knowledgeable about their subject. They're so good at their content knowledge. They actually describe it as being unconsciously competent. You don't even have to think about it. You just know it. And that means possibly you don't understand a first-time learner and all their issues. So the knowledge gets in the way. And Harvard figured out, this is going on at Harvard, and they have figured out that a first-time learner often is the best teacher because they're just now learning it for the first time, and they have opportunity to explain it the way a first-time learner understands it. So if you see that video, you'll see kids teaching kids, a lot of that. So to answer your question about who owns the learning, it's not just an individual shift. I think it's a social shift to kids helping kids, individuals being more self-directed, but also being more interdependent with one another. That's a whole nother, we'll have to do that session, Jackie. Whole nother hour answer to that.
Happily have you back, Alan. I really appreciate you
do that one.
Time, splitting your time between your Seder and this afternoon. I also appreciate all of our attendees. Thank you for joining us today. I know that you had a couple of friends in the room. Judy from Ramapo Central Suffern says hello.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's been a while.
That's great. And so I just wanted to thank you. Thank you so much for sharing some of these great sites. I know a lot of our folks said, oh, wish we knew about these. I'm excited to use them now. So thank you. Thanks for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful Passover and a fantastic weekend. And we'll be in touch. Maybe we'll do another session soon since our schools are closed until the 29th anyway.
Yeah, let me know. Thanks for this opportunity to share. I loved it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Bye now.